I put it together. I saw the thread going through my life. And that's what I'm sharing with other people now. When our souls are undernourished, that's how we develop addictions. Food addictions are obvious. We're trying to fill the emptiness within, but it applies to all kinds of addictions.
Welcome to Hope to Recharge podcast. Thank you for joining me here again today. Every week we meet here to break the stigma around mental health and to bring you insight and inspiration and lots of practical tips from personal stories or professionals around the world that share how they turn their journey of mental health into healing or to thriving. Together we will break the stigma one story at a time. In mental health, together is always better. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm your host, Matana. Let's get started. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, the leading online platform for therapy. You can access thousands of therapists one click away. Go check out BetterHelp.com/hope to recharge. Get 10% off your first month. Start your wellness now. Do you sometimes feel stuck? Do you wish you can be somewhere else? Do you have a vision of where you want to get to, but you just don't know what the first step to take in order to get to that life that you're dreaming of? Many people ask me, what did I do in order to create this wellness that I'm living in? How did I shift from deep depression, from extreme anxiety to a thriving life, to a productive life, to a life full of joy? I put many things into practice, and it's every single day. Many of you know that it's gratitude, a healthy mindset, boundaries, self-love, and one of the most important things that many people don't speak about, forgiveness. Self-forgiveness and forgiveness to others. Essential for healing. If you want to work one-on-one with me in order to move forward towards that dream life that you have a vision of, click the link below in the show notes. It's a custom-made program for you, one-on-one with me. We will develop a concrete program that you can implement in your life so you can create a better well-being. Click the link below. Looking forward to working with you. Hello. Welcome to Hope to Recharge podcast, where we break the stigma one story at a time. Today I have the wonderful Bracha Goetz. She is not the typical Harvard grad. She's the author of 39 picture books that help children grow spiritually, inspiring each uniquely beautiful soul to shine. She recently wrote her memoir, Searching for God in the Garbage. I had to grab it. I reached out to Bracha because her name was very familiar. After speaking to her, I realized that we were neighbors about 40 years ago in a small little community in Israel. She inspired me through this conversation. She shares her journey with eating disorders as a teen, as an early adult, how she was searching for answers for anorexia and bulimia. She went to school to understand it, and the more she deep dived into the topic, the more she felt like she was drowning in her own struggles. In this book, she shares deep, dark, messy parts of her eating disorder, and she also shared what happened that transformed her and how she found healing. And it all started in Israel. I can't wait till you hear this episode. If you know anyone with eating disorders or any disorder, any addiction, because Bracha says that any addiction is the same kind of void, share this episode with them. You might save a life. Enjoy the listen.
At age 12, I started feeling like something was missing from my life. The search began. Searching through the garbage. I searched through everything just about. And what didn't I try? I don't know. I tried many different religions. I explored lots of different religions, and I explored environmentalism. I explored social action, education, drugs, experimenting with drugs, relationships. I tried all these different things, searching for what was missing in my life. I didn't know what it was. So let's see, I ended up going, because I got so into education, I ended up going to Harvard, and then I majored in psychology, again, searching for what was the truth, what was the purpose to life. This is what I thought I would find there. I kept going. I was involved, like I said, with Christian Science and Buddhism. I was born Jewish, but it didn't seem like anything spiritual was involved there. So I wasn't really pursuing Judaism much. And yeah, and my boyfriends were always not Jewish. And in fact, in college at Harvard, my boyfriend then was Catholic, and he wanted to go to the Hillel there. I wasn't even interested. We went one Friday night, but it just didn't pull me. I kept searching, and what was happening was I seemed like a success on the outside, but within there was an emptiness and I didn't know how to fill it. And at first I tried, let's say maybe I was a little bit overweight, and I started dieting and I saw the reactions I got from being thin. So I was all into being thin and crazy diets. But you can't keep that up. So then I was binging. So I was either doing one or the other, crazy dieting or binging. And it had nothing to do with being physically hungry, what I was doing. It was all just manipulating my life. And what I discovered when I put the book together, because I couldn't understand why, when I finally found the nourishment that my soul was craving, why was I suddenly healed from my food addictions? What did one thing have to do with the other? I couldn't figure that out. So by putting the book together, it was an epiphany came. Putting it together, it was almost like therapy, because at the end of the book, when I put it together, I saw the thread going through my life. And that's what I'm sharing with other people now. When our souls are undernourished, that's how we develop addictions. Food addictions are obvious. We're trying to fill the emptiness within, but it applies to all kinds of addictions. It's that when we experience food, we experience pleasure when we eat food, and food was designed to be pleasurable. I give an example of an orange. Like, an orange is beautiful. It becomes its most beautiful when it's ripe on the tree. It becomes bright. Like one of my children's books is about this too, how amazing our fruit and vegetables are, the genius of them. Like, you can also see how this was individually packaged and how the juiciness stays inside because of the peel, the amazing peel designed by perfect intelligence. So it keeps it yummy and juicy inside. So basically, food was designed to be pleasurable to taste, and the aroma is beautiful, and also it's beautiful to look at. So it could have been that we just take a pill and that would have been it. But no, everything in life is designed for our greatest pleasure. We've gone off course, but that's how life was designed to be. Everything in nature is designed for our greatest pleasure. So basically, when we experience the pleasure, if we don't have enough other pleasures in our life, we get stuck on that pleasure. And that's why we overeat, because it's pleasurable. So just keep going. And especially with food that's processed, the food that's processed is not designed perfectly. It's actually designed to be addictive. So when we eat that pleasure, when we experience it on our taste buds, even though it's just for like a few seconds, we want the pleasure to keep lasting. So that's why people overeat. It's really very simple. And we try to keep the pleasure going by overeating, but it's really a spiritual pleasure that we need and the food was designed to uplift our souls. All these physical pleasures were designed to uplift our souls. They're not just designed to uplift our bodies. They are designed to uplift our souls as well. So that's why when we bring in other pleasures, we can overcome our addictions and by uplifting our souls as well.
So it's such a fine balance because you're saying it's designed to make us feel good. But if we overtake it, it's going to leave us with a emptiness if we don't do it properly. If we don't consume the food properly.
Here's the thing, the natural foods, you know how hard it is to overeat oranges? People just you can't overeat apples and oranges. Like, the natural foods we tend to not really overeat. It's the food that we've made chemically that's been produced to make us overeat. These foods we don't. And also, our bodies were designed to move. Instead, we live sedentary lives. That's not what our bodies were designed for. We were designed to dance and farm and work in gardens and go out into nature and run and jump, not to sit at computers all day. We weren't designed in that way. So, no,
Wow,
we've gone off track.
a little.
Yes, exactly. And so we have to bring ourselves back. If we bring ourselves back and nourish our souls, we won't have the need for addiction in our lives. We are so filled with pleasure. My life is so filled with pleasure. There's no longer this desire to overeat. It doesn't draw me. The big bag of potato chips stops calling your name when you fill up with other pleasures.
Wow. Wow. Wait, so I have a few questions about what you were just saying. First of all, you wrote the book not because you knew that you overcame the addiction, you were just writing it. And then through the writing, you're like, oh my gosh, I found God and my addiction is away. Maybe there's a connection through the writing of the book.
Good question. I understood there was a connection. I understood it, but I didn't see it so clearly until I wrote this book. It made everything clear. And you know what? As I'm doing these podcasts, as I'm sharing this, the information is getting clearer and clearer every single time, too. You hone in when you teach, you get the clarity also. I feel that it's even clearer than when I wrote the book now, how I'm understanding this process of how it works. It's so simple, really.
It's interesting that you're saying that because yesterday I was talking to one of my clients and I said I reread books every year or every other year. And the information I'm getting and understanding is on a different level as I evolve. And so you can never say, I read that book, I don't need it anymore. Go back when you're already a product, a better product, read it again. You'll understand it on a deeper level. And you're going to say, oh my goodness, how did I not see that before? And this is wow. There's certain books that I really read every single year to remind myself and to see what the next level can come out of it. And that's what you're saying, that as you're teaching your book and you're elaborating on it, you're suddenly realizing, wait, there's a deeper point that I didn't even see while I was writing it.
Exactly. And what you're describing is also what prayers are about. We can say the same prayer, and then why are we saying the same, or a mantra that someone says, a mantra that someone says when they're meditating. The next day, you're a different person. It means something completely different to you. You evolve. The words may have stayed the same, but you're a different person. You're approaching it differently. That's what's so fascinating about prayers and mantras. They reflect onto you. They show you who you've become and how you're changing.
And it
Right.
meets you differently where you are every single day. And it's a different kind of meaning every single day. And that's why we repeat ourselves, because every day there's a different meaning to it from the experiences that we have that day.
Exactly. It's even true with yoga. I do yoga just about every day, and the pose is different. I'm evolving. It's all part of the fascinating world that we live in. Exactly. Yes.
So you mentioned that you started writing when you were 12. Does that mean that when you were 12, you already felt empty when you were so young, teen?
Yeah, in fact, that's when I started. I think that's when I started gaining weight gradually. I felt an emptiness and I was like overeating at that point. It was really, I would say I was overeating till 15, and then I started with the diets. So it was like one thing or another. Yeah, there was something, suddenly I had an extra awareness at age 12. And I couldn't understand, is this all there is to life? We get up each day, we go to work, we make money to eat, to get up, to go to work, to make money. What is this all for? This is what I started. When you'll read my book, you'll see the poems were deep at age 12. I was like, what's going on here? And at that age, everything, hormones started changing. And like people started like being interested in boys, and I wasn't yet interested in boys. And this was all fascinating. My body's changing, but what's going on? It was like, it was a time of change. And I think that's why my soul started to wake up with a new level of awareness.
So you were very deep, even as a 12-year-old, because
Yeah.
most 12-year-olds are going through puberty, change, but they're not in touch with that void. They just feel something, but they fill it with music, with social media now,
Right.
with hanging out with friends, with food. But you said, I'm not going to just fill it. There's something missing and you were curious about it.
I was trying to fill it, hanging out with people, doing drugs. I didn't do as much as other people, thank God. I had friends that overdosed. I was involved with all kinds of crazy crowds. I was experimenting. I was a very curious person, trying, experimenting with different things. And yeah, let's try things. Let's see, maybe this will offer me something. I didn't know where it was. And I definitely didn't think it was in my own heritage. So I was seeking out definitely other religions. I never dated someone of my own heritage, only outside. That's what interested me, going into a different life and exploring.
Tell me a little bit about your family. Were they supportive? Are they loving? Was there something to run away from?
Nah, they were such wonderful, open people, so sweet and encouraging. But I just didn't see the spirituality. That's what they didn't grow up with. They didn't have an education about our heritage. There were a few things they still did, but they didn't from the heritage, but they didn't know why they were doing it. And whatever they did do, I rebelled against it. Who needs that? There's no purpose to this.
Right.
So I wasn't into it, but they were very loving people. And that's what gave me the encouragement, I think, to keep going and exploring and feeling that there's something more that's missing. That, yeah, I feel that they were incredibly sweet people.
So there was no trauma.
No, there was definitely no trauma, and they had such a sweetness about them, and they were very simple people, not into materialism. Like, we didn't have a big house in the suburbs. We had this small apartment. We didn't own anything. And I was in fact, I was searching for nature because, boy, there was like hardly any nature around where we lived in Queens, New York. But they were very good people. Yeah.
Did they understand that you're missing something? Did they feel like you were confused? Did they try to support you through your eating disorder? What was that relationship between your searching and their observing it?
In those years, people weren't so open. They weren't into talking about it with me much. We didn't talk about feelings all that much. I felt they were very loving people, but we didn't get into deep stuff like that. In fact, they didn't even know where my kind of depth was coming from. Sometimes I was confusing to them. I think they were simple, sweet people. That's how I see my parents. Yeah.
Wow. So it can be lonely when one of the things that I hear often from deep people, that they feel very alone, that they can't share their thoughts and their depths with someone. And they're afraid that if they do, people will think they're crazy. So they're just pondering on their own. And sometimes it could be a void of not sharing it with somebody that gets you.
Yeah, there definitely was that. And you'll see that in my poetry in the beginning. It's a lot about the loneliness and how different I felt than everybody else. And how I'd go to a party and people are dancing and doing drugs, whatever. And I'm like, I feel more different than ever now. I'm not like these people, but who am I? Who am I like? I didn't know. I really didn't find people that were similar to me until after I graduated from Harvard. I went to medical school and I was studying to be a psychiatrist because I was fascinated by the mind-body connection.
Right.
So I went to medical school for 1 year. By then, oh my goodness, my crazy eating had gone really berserk. I was doing such bizarre behaviors, which I won't even describe, but they're in the book. People say to me, how could you write about this crazy stuff? But if you don't go to the depths, then you don't get how high I was able to reach from those depths. It was terrible, the crazy things I was doing. So I told my boyfriend then in medical school, I really think I need to go to a psychiatrist myself. So I set myself up an appointment. I go in, he was a Japanese psychiatrist. I go in, I said, I'm in medical school, but I feel like I need to be in a mental hospital now. I'm like doing such crazy stuff. I told him what I was doing. And he said to me, I told him also that I had planned to go to Israel for the summer. My parents actually arranged for me to volunteer at Hadassah Hospital for 6 weeks. So I told him that I'm going to go to Israel for the summer and everything. He goes, I think you're crazier than you are. He said to me, this is what he said. He said, I think there's something missing from you spiritually. And you know what? I think you're going to find it in Israel. That is what this Japanese psychiatrist said to me. It was the weirdest thing. I put this in the book too. It was the strangest thing. And I ended up not going back. We just had this one visit with this. He was a counselor to the students. You could go to meet with him. I ended up going for 6 weeks. Before I went, my mother said to me, do whatever you want in Israel, but just don't contact this religious fanatic. I'd known him since kindergarten. We had grown up together. He became religious. And she said, just don't contact him. Do whatever else you want. So, of course, my rebellious self, right away, I contact him. I sent him one of those aerograms people used to have. I wrote him a letter. I said, I am studying to be a psychiatrist, but I don't even know, I wouldn't know how to help my clients. I don't know what the purpose of life is. So he wrote back to me. He said, forget about your clients. You need to know. So when you come, I'll meet you at Hadassah Hospital and I'll take you to some schools where you could learn about the purpose of life.
How old were you?
I was 22.
Oh, so young.
I went, he met me at the cafeteria at Hadassah Hospital, and he met me the first week I got there. I was counseling families on the oncology ward at Hadassah. He met me, and he took me to a school called NIM and another called, these are two schools for like late beginners wanting to learn in depth, searchers about wanting to know about their heritage in Judaism.
Yeah.
So I got there and I don't even know what they were talking about. I didn't know half the words. It's like some things were in Hebrew. And I'm sitting there. I was drawing pictures. I love to draw creatures. And I'm sitting there doodling while I'm listening. And I still have the picture I drew of a creature jumping off the top of the world, screaming, yay! Like I felt like I found what I was looking for. Now, I had found pieces of truth in other religions too. Parts of Buddhism, parts of Christian Science, they all help to elevate my soul in different ways. And in fact, when I got involved with Buddhism and Christian Science, it got me away from the drug scene and more into education.
Mhm.
So these were things that lifted me up, but they didn't fit like the perfect puzzle piece of that day when I got there and I started learning about Torah in depth. It was an incredible experience that my soul reacted to. It's as if it activated my soul. It's as if that's what happened. It got activated and it was like all charged to learn more. So I studied, and within another week, I moved out of the Hadassah dorms and into the dorms of Or Sameach.
Oh, really?
And I was spending all day there learning and also doing good deeds for people that came up. I would love to do that in the community, or else I was learning. That's all I was doing. And I not only did I love what I was learning, I loved the people there. They were the idealistic people like me that were searchers. So I was right away with all these people that I could relate to. It was an amazing experience. Besides the teachers, I love the students. These were the people I was really craving to be with forever.
And
Yeah.
right away, you was like, okay, because you were searching for meaning. You kept on saying, I don't understand what the purpose of life. When you got to Or Sameach, you suddenly, what I'm visualizing is the matrix, you suddenly get plugged in and the data is coming through.
Yes.
Like you were just
Yes.
receiving the data that you were
Yes.
searching and craving. And it was just like everything was making sense because you were plugged in there.
Exactly. And you know what? I feel that addicts, people that have different addictions, are more exposed souls. So I was a very exposed soul. I was a soul. I believe that people with addictions
Sensitive.
are sensitive and they feel this emptiness. They're aware of the emptiness. There are many people that are unaware of the inner emptiness they're feeling.
Right.
Some of my relatives, in fact. So basically, I think that people that have addictions, they want that pleasure. They want that greater, more lasting pleasure in life. This is why they have become addicts. I deeply believe that. And so I was acting it out through these addictions. And believe me, in the beginning, when I got there, I was still doing these crazy things with the food. But once it became integrated, that's when it changed. It wasn't like I stopped doing the crazy things the minute I got there. No, for weeks and months, it was still happening. But it gradually, suddenly, I noticed what happened. Oh, I'm no longer doing these crazy things anymore. Yes.
Wow. Did you ever get diagnosed for anorexia or bulimia or anything like that? Or you
Right.
self-diagnosed yourself?
Yeah, I never got diagnosed. I thank God never got so skinny that it was a health issue because I was doing the opposite. I was binging or I was starving myself. So one or the other kept me from having a really severe health problem in that way. Yeah, thank God. I think I weighed at my lowest, and that's in the book. I think I weighed 95 pounds, which was pretty skinny, but it wasn't like
So we have some teens. This is actually Teen Month that we're talking about mental health by teens. So before we go into your full story, I want to ask if you can give some kind of a clue or something for parents or mentors or the teens themselves to say, wait, is this an addiction? Is this something wrong? Do I need to get checked out? What are something that you wish someone said to you when you were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16? Wait, what you're doing is not healthy. This is not normal.
I really wasn't so unhealthy during those years, though. It became unhealthy, I would say, around 18. Once I went away to college, that's when I got, so into it and how great it would be to be skinnier. And I kept doing all those crazy things. And not only that, wait till you hear this. I started studying it. I became the expert on anorexia at Harvard. So here I was, this expert delving into research. In fact, a chapter that I wrote on it was published in an anthology while I was still an undergraduate. I was like doing some breakthrough research in this field, and I was getting sicker and sicker while I was doing it. So this is just to show you that intellectually you can understand something. It doesn't matter if you're not addressing the spiritual lack. It's not going to matter. Oh, and the emotional issues too. If in my case, it wasn't so much an emotional thing, I'm saying see, I believe the basis of all addictions is a spiritual emptiness. And there could be layers of emotional garbage piled on top.
Right.
When that's the case, then therapeutic intervention is needed in addition to the spiritual nourishment, because your soul can shine if you have tons of garbage piled on top of you. In my case, that wasn't the case. So when I got the spiritual nourishment, my soul was able to shine. But many people, if you have gone through trauma, abuse, neglect as a child, there'll be other issues too. And those have to be removed simultaneously. While you're nourishing your soul, you have to remove the garbage that it occludes your soul from shining. So I think therapeutic intervention is really necessary for many people that have especially eating disorders. And that may be why I didn't go to the extreme. I don't know, but I'm just saying I was maybe saving myself by not doing that.
So you're saying your void was not love, affection, or you didn't have a trauma that affected the way you were, your addictions, but your void was a spiritual void. And you believe that most voids are spiritual. And then there's the add-ons to it that may amplify it.
Exactly right. Exactly. You got it. And if we bring in more pleasures into our life, more lasting pleasures, that's the way to overcome addictions. The new line I just came up with is gain joy instead of weight. We need to bring more joy into our life. It's not about restricting. It's about adding more joy into our life. And what I want to explain is, and one more thing I want to say, when you talked about the teens, how do they know if they have a problem? My life, when I finally sought out the psychiatrist, had become unmanageable. I think that's the first of the 12 steps. When you recognize your life is unmanageable, acknowledging it. I saw it because here I was, a medical student. I looked like a success, but I felt like I am really a mess inside right now. And so I knew that my life had become unmanageable. My behaviors were bizarre. I was doing crazy things. It was taking up so much of my mental and emotional energy, this disordered way of eating. And it was using up so much that I was before could spend on intellectual studies or things like that. It was taking up way too much space in my life. That's when a person can know that they have a problem. They're not experiencing a joyful life anymore. I wasn't. And I was really, by that point in medical school, it was the most miserable year of my life when I sunk the lowest. that is when I was able to recognize that I really needed help.
That was your rock bottom.
Yeah, that was definitely my rock bottom. I describe a bunch of scenes in the book are horrible rock bottom experiences that I had there. I don't even want to go there, but I put them in the book and people say to me, how embarrassing. But if I don't show that, you got to show it.
You have to be raw. Otherwise, you don't see the transformation.
Exactly.
From the depths of hell, can we see the high of the joy? If you
Exactly.
don't experience depth of hell, the experience of joy won't be as high. I always say to people that come to me and they're struggling, I said, just as much as you're suffering in such depthness, can you imagine your joy being on that level?
Beautiful. Beautiful. You have got it exactly. That's what I want to. Okay, now I want to tell you. I want to tell you about the 5 levels of the pleasure ladder. This is who changed my life so much. I spent very little time with him during that first year of study, but I read his writings. I spent a little bit of time and he transformed my life. This is Rabbi Noah Weinberg, and I'm going to explain to you. He taught, this is what he told. So as I was searching, what is the purpose to life? He explained it like this. This blew me away. The purpose of life is to experience the greatest pleasure possible. What? This is this rabbi wearing this black hat and this black suit saying the purpose of life is to experience the greatest pleasure possible. What does that mean? So he explained there's a pleasure ladder. What is this based on? This is based on ancient mystical writings. This is based on the blueprint that came with our souls. The 5 levels, this is something I just discovered this past Passover when I was studying this. The 5 levels of the human soul, what I believe is, I wasn't taught this, but I saw the connection. They seem to correspond to the 5 levels on the pleasure ladder. So here we go. The lowest level of the human soul is the part of the soul that attaches to the physical body. So when we experience all these sensual pleasures, it uplifts our soul. At the same time, when we experience the natural, wonderful, brilliant foods that were designed for us, when we experience music, when we experience nature, these things were all designed to fill us with pleasure. So here we go. Now up the ladder. The next level up, the second rung on the pleasure ladder, which brings us even more pleasure, is love. And what is this Jewish definition that Rabbi Weinberg taught? It's not the usual definition of love. It's something that anybody could do. They never have to sit by a phone and wait for someone to call them. It involves focusing on what you appreciate about someone else, focusing on the virtues of somebody else. So we could bring that into our lives at any moment. A person that's incarcerated could bring love into their lives. And an addiction is incarceration too. So when you're incarcerated, you could still focus on what you appreciate about someone else. You'll notice that each level up brings you a level of greater connection, because why does a person overeat or do any other addiction? They're feeling alienated, they're feeling separated, lonely, stress, anxiety. These are all feelings of separation. How do we uplift our soul? By adding connection. On the physical level, we're connecting to an apple. An apple is bringing us joy, uplifting our soul. Or we're connecting to another being now on the second level. What do we appreciate about someone else? Okay, the third level is meaning. When we bring more meaning into our lives, we are filled with an even more lasting pleasure and a greater connection out into the larger community. And what is even higher than that? Creativity. With creativity, we tap into the creative flow of the universe. We bring out what's creative inside of us, what's uniquely us, and we bring it and share it into the world.
God's gift that he gave is individuals.
Exactly. When we are being creative, you don't feel like eating or even sleeping. You're in the zone of creativity, and it's a tremendous lasting pleasure.
That's why it's so godly, because we're bringing a part of God into the universe through us. We're like the funnel of God.
Exactly, exactly. And we are emulating God. Through each level up, we emulate God even more, being more godlike by doing
Right.
these things.
And exposing his greatness through us.
Exactly. Right. All the physical things, when we on back on this level, we are bringing up the spark of divinity that's in the apple. When we eat it with gratitude, that's the thing. Gratitude is it's the ticket. It's the ticket that that takes us from one level to the next. Without the gratitude, we're just stuffing our faces and finishing up the bag of potato chips. But again, the more natural foods that we eat, the more they fill us up in the way that they were meant to. And they bring us gratitude so much more than eating these phony things from that are made with chemicals. Basically, the highest level is transcendence. What does that mean? It's the awe and bliss that you feel under a starry sky at night. It's when you know that you're a part of the universe. It's when you are connected to the greater whole, when the veil of separation between everybody and everything is lifted and we feel connection with everybody. That is really, it's a state. Let me explain that the highest two states, transcendence and creativity, are not states that we can sustain on a long-term basis.
Yeah.
We would burn out by being creative all the time, and we're not in a state of transcendence all the time. But we get glimpses of these states, like we get when we observe the Sabbath. We get a glimpse of transcendence, of awe and bliss, but we don't stay there. It's not where we are all the time. Even on the Sabbath, we're not in that state all the time. The states that we're mainly in most of our lives are the three lowest levels: physical pleasures, the pleasures of love, and the pleasures of meaning. And again, we get glimpses of these two highest states that we are going to be in the next world, when our bodies are no longer with us and we're just souls. Those are the states we're going to be in. So know that I used to think it's going to be boring in that next world, but no, it's going to be constant creativity, constant transcendence. It's wow, we can't even imagine what that's like. It's like a blind person picturing what the color blue is. We have no idea what that means.
No ability to comprehend it.
Exactly. But we know that it's something awesome, because when we get glimpses of it, we know how awesome those highest levels of pleasure are. Those are the most lasting pleasures. And whenever we've experienced them, they stay with us forever. The feeling of creativity and transcendence. We can go back to that night under the stars forever. It stays with us. But what we're mainly on are these three lower levels, and we can continue to bring these pleasures into our lives. The reason we overeat or do other addictions is a sense of scarcity. We have a sense that there's not enough pleasure in our life. This understanding about the pleasure ladder shows you that there's an abundance of pleasure. The world was designed for us to experience the greatest pleasure. Why do people have children? What do we want for our children? We want our children to experience the greatest pleasure possible in life. So that's what the Almighty that created and designed us wants for us: to experience the greatest pleasure possible, to uplift our souls. We're here in a physical world to uplift our souls through the physical elements with which we interact.
Thank you for sharing the 5 layers, because I've never 5 stages. Is it 5 layers or 5 stages? What do you call it?
5 levels, right? That's what
Levels,
it's
5 levels.
called, right?
And as you were saying the last one, I was, oh my goodness, the last one, you know what it is? Clarity. It's clarity.
Beautiful.
You just have a vision of clarity, and we don't always have clarity. And
Beautiful.
why it says, and there is no joy than removal of doubt and getting to clarity. Why does it say there is no greater joy? There is no greater joy. That saying, there is no greater joy than removing doubt and getting to
Exactly.
clarity. Why? Because it's
Beautiful.
the highest level of connection, which is clarity. And how often do
Beautiful.
we have clarity? Not often. And we search for clarity all the time through meaning, through all the art, through nature. Because we just want to understand clarity. And when we have that orgasmic experience, and I call it orgasmic because it's short-lived, right? It's short-lived, that little joy. of clarity. But that's why it says that there's no greater joy than that.
Lasts with us. It stays with us, though. We don't stay in that state, but you remember it forever.
And we try to go back to there, and then we come
Exactly.
down and we hope that we go back, and then and the journey of life, we go up and down and up and down.
Beautiful.
And then we reach that. And one of the things that I always say, that if I had one thing, I would love clarity. And I never understood why it was something that I wanted
Awesome.
so badly. The whys, the why. I want clarity. Or we want clarity on how to do. We want God to come to us and say, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. Because
And
when we
life,
have clarity, it's just a path. It's the GPS. Turn right, left, go straight. You'll get to your destination.
I believe that life becomes clearer and clearer as we nourish our souls.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel so confused. It was so confusing to me. And it's just not like that anymore. And now, with my soul filled up like this, I don't need that much food. I just need a little bit of food every day and nutritious food. You just don't need all that because you're full all the time with gratitude for life. It changes everything. Exactly.
I want to ask you, so you were saying that you tapped into joy. Let's elaborate on that a little bit. What is joy? What is spirituality? Because people are going to say, what is the spirituality that she's talking about? What is she saying that she was like? There could be people that are binge eating and they don't feel empty from spirituality, and they're not understanding what is this spirituality that you speak of, that you feel that people are missing, and that's why they have addiction.
What I'm trying to describe it is that when you experience the pleasure of eating something, that pleasure was designed not only for your body, because we are essentially spiritual beings just housed in bodies. So what you are in essence is a spiritual being. So these foods, these natural foods, were designed to fuel your body, but also to uplift your soul, to do both, to bring pleasure on that lowest level of the soul, which is called in Hebrew the nefesh. That's the part of the soul that connects to the body. Basically, it gives us pleasure, the natural pleasure that you experience when you eat something. And if you don't recognize how to bring all these other pleasures into your life, you'll just keep eating. You'll just keep wanting to overeat because naturally we are made to want to experience pleasure in our life for a good reason, for spiritual reasons. We are meant to experience this tremendous pleasure. We're really here for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that we experience that pleasure, but recognize right away that I don't have to keep eating. I could do other pleasures too. And once you recognize that abundance, so let's say even just on the physical level, let's say you're overeating something, and that can still happen. You could be eating something and just keep wanting to keep going because it tastes so good. You say, and you get to a point and you say, you know what? What if I do something else now that brings me pleasure? You could even put little notes up on your cupboards or something saying, is it my body that's hungry or my soul? When you're overeating, and you look at that and you go, oh yeah, I could do something else. I could turn on music and start just dancing or moving. Suddenly that craving goes away. You could step outside, feel the brisk, cool air on your face, feel the sunshine. And again, it just doesn't call your name. The box of chocolate chip cookies isn't drawing you in the same way. You can call or text somebody lonely. And let's say you don't reach them. You could still leave them a sweet message about how you appreciate them. Guess what? The food won't be drawing you in the same way after you leave that message. It's amazing. You just gave to somebody. You just appreciated someone. I was on another podcast and the guy was I was explaining this, and he said, I was plowing through a box of pizza, just eating right through it. I had 2 slices. I was just keep on going. And someone knocked on my door. My neighbor needed my help. I went out to help him. When I came back, I saw the pizza. I was no longer interested.
Wow.
I was feeling so good about helping him.
Wow.
I didn't need all that pizza anymore. He felt the connection. That's what happens.
So spirituality is a form of, it's really meaning, right? Because it's finding some kind of a depth to your existence. How do you explain spirituality?
It's whatever fills your soul.
And
So
how do you know what that is if you're confused? Let's say you're 15 And you're like, I don't understand a word that Bracha is saying. I know I had a food addiction. I know I love food. I know I binge eat. I might be even anorexic or bulimic. I throw up every time. I feel guilty. I hate myself. I can't look in the mirror, all that. And for the life of me, I don't know what Bracha is saying. What the heck is spiritual?
Good point. The way to test it is, how do you feel afterwards? Then you'll know, what are you left with? What lasting pleasure are you left with? When you finish the bag of potato chips, do you feel uplifted? Like you want to just go help the world and shine your soul? Is your soul shining? You know what it feels like to be joyful. Is that how you feel afterwards? Once you've finished up every last crumb and every little speck of salt in the bag of the potato chips, how do you feel? It just a certain level of awareness. A person knows how they feel, how they're left feeling afterwards. How do you feel after you've had a couple of oranges? Uplifted. It's like an awesome feeling. If it's connecting to gratitude. Are you left with a grateful feeling? Let's put it that way. Are you left feeling grateful toward life? That's a very clear way to say it. If you are filled with gratitude afterwards, then you know you have fed your hungry soul.
But Brach, I think that's an extra step. I preach gratitude. And I live gratitude. And the way I healed, one of the biggest steps that I healed from depression was through practicing gratitude, the law of attraction, learning it, rewiring my mind. I literally don't go a day without practicing a gratitude meditation in the morning and at night. I was talking about Nishmat, how I live Nishmat and it's part of my existence. And people often ask me, what are you on? I said, I'm on the vitamin of gratitude. Just tap into it. But people say to me, I don't understand. I could say it, I don't feel it. They don't feel the gratitude. Their mind understands it, but they don't feel grateful. And what is that disconnect? Because I know, and once you tap into gratitude, it's the highest level of connection to God. Like you just feel God in your constantly, and it's a constant hug from God. And it's like the Matrix. You want to be plugged in constantly, right?
Yes.
But people say to me, I know what you're saying, but I don't feel it.
Yes. So there's all kinds of exercises to do to increase gratitude. I also, of course, want to mention movement. Movement is so important. Exercise, it gets those endorphins flowing.
Yes,
It's
yes.
really hard not to feel gratitude after you've been dancing
Right.
or running or jumping. It just fills you up. It fills your body with really delightful chemicals, the good kind, the natural kind that we're
Right.
intended to make. But other exercises, there's all kinds of things. I know that with my children, every night we would go to bed and we would say something that you're grateful for that happened that day. But everybody could do that. Many people they see that people have gotten happier from gratitude journals. Every night, 3 things they write down they're grateful for. There's all kinds of exercises, like, for instance, at any moment you're feeling miserable, think about all the illnesses you don't have right now. Or think of all the body parts that are working in your body.
Exactly.
Think of all the parts of you that are not in pain. Think of another exercise is people practice, imagine losing everything you have, everything. And then in your imagination, gain each thing back one by one. These are
Beautiful.
just exercises to use our gratitude muscles, just like our muscles that we use when we do physical activity. We have to exercise them. The more we exercise them, the more gratitude we will have.
It's the gratitude effect. The more you live with gratitude, the more you notice gratitude, and then the more positive things are coming, and the negative just rolls off your back because it's just the gratitude effect.
And that's what happened to me. I didn't even know, how did I lose these addictions? What changed,
Right.
So much gratitude had filled my life. And I want to say a very important thing. They've done studies that it takes over 400 repetitions to break a bad habit. Yet if a person does it joyfully, within 10 repetitions, they can get a new habit in sync. The new synapses are created so much more easily with joy.
But how they create the joy. The people that are listening to this podcast are people that are searching and yearning and craving joy. They want it, they do the exercise, but they're just not tapping into it, and they don't know Some people tell me I never experienced joy in my life. I don't know what you're talking about.
I can only suggest to do it in these very simple ways. Try to spend some time with an orange. Just spend time hanging out with an orange. All the amazing parts about it. The more we can simplify our lives and focus on these very simple gifts, the more we can have appreciation. Like someone came out with a new book about breaking habits. They said you have to do it, has to be easy, enjoyable, and then repeat it. I say it's just one, enjoyable, because that covers everything. Enjoyable makes it easy, and enjoyable makes you want to repeat it. So if you practice gratitude exercise, just practice it. It brings more joy to your life, and you'll want to repeat it. So it becomes a new habit of practicing gratitude. It's about making it into a habit in your life. And don't be down on yourself for all the time you spend being miserable. It's understandable because anybody that experienced trauma in their life, nobody stands in the shoes of anybody else. Nobody could judge it. It changes the nervous system. It affects it. It gets into the body. It's hard to get it out of the body. Any moment that you're not miserable is a miracle. Enjoy that one moment of joy and then try to spread it out into more. But don't be hard on yourself for being miserable. Your body was rewired from the trauma, and there are different therapeutic methods to get better from it. But any moment of joy you have is something to celebrate. It's a great victory.
It's very true. So ever since that year in Israel, you stopped your binge eating and your horrible eating habits and all of your food addictions? Like it was gone?
It's basically gone. It comes up so rarely. Let's say I'm at a wedding and I don't feel comfortable. I don't know the people. Like, not now. I'm not going anywhere. But let's say it's not the pandemic and you have this big smorgasbord buffet, and I don't know anybody. I can't, no one I want to talk to. I feel awkward. I can feel myself starting to overeat. I can feel that happening. I have to remind myself, connect with somebody. There must be somebody here that wants me to talk to them. Somebody I find that's also standing around, not knowing anybody. Look for a way to appreciate someone or find meaning. Don't just focus on the food. Now you've had enough. Now let's move on to another level of pleasure. I talk myself into that. It doesn't happen often, but I can still get back to that headspace where I might start overeating at a thing like that. Now that's how I can remember what it felt like to be in that state of binging, which was a scarier place to me than the dieting place. That uncontrollable binging was really a nutty place for me to be. Yeah.
So what you're saying basically is, and I don't know if you said this in the book, because I didn't read the book yet, that when we don't feel belonging, we find pleasure through our senses, through either smell, touch, food. Like we're trying to feel ourselves when we don't feel belonging.
Yes, belonging and connection. Oh, exactly. We need to feel that. We feel alone, alienated, all those feelings. And then we just keep trying to stick the pleasure into our mouths, stuff our faces. But there's so many other ways to get pleasure. We have to remind ourselves, oh, yeah, I need more pleasure right now. Maybe I should just leave the smorgasbord, step outside and spend some time in nature. Whatever I do something different that can also bring you pleasure. We just get in the bad habit. People that are in the habit of overeating or whatever their addiction they're involved with, they got stuck there. They got imprisoned there because it brings them, what Rabbi Weinberg used to say is, it brings you comfort. This blew our minds. Comfort is the opposite of pleasure. What does he mean? He would say pain is not the opposite of pleasure. There could be pain involved in pleasure. When you climb a mountain, you want the challenge, you want discomfort, or pain could be involved. You want that. Or when you're exercising, there's some discomfort. That could be a part of pleasure. Or giving birth, there's plenty of pain involved. But comfort stops us from reaching for pleasure. When I'm stuffing my face.
Wow, there's no more inspiration because we're plateauing like a heartbeat.
Exactly.
Stops or it plateaus. That's comfort, rest. Oh my goodness. Wow.
It blows my, that he expanded my consciousness. It's comfort that stops us from pleasure. That's really, it's kind of sense, it's the opposite in that sense. Exactly.
What's your
Yes.
highest moments of joy nowadays? When you want to say, like, I experience the most highest moments of joy, where do you find that?
I would say it's seeing my children be awesome parents, passing on wisdom into their lives, seeing I guess it's what we said. What is the greatest pleasure when we see our children experiencing the greatest pleasure possible? So passing it on and just feeling so good about that feeling. And this is also a tremendous pleasure in my life. This makes my soul shine, sharing this wisdom that I got from Rabbi Noah Weinberg and that he got from the most ancient mystical teachings that were the blueprint of our souls. So this is like the basis. It's so important to keep sharing this vital information that the world needs. Addictions are so widespread.
Because you're doing meaning for your suffering from your binge eating. That's the third.
Yes.
Creativity is the fourth, right? And the highest form is transcendence and clarity. And I see it as the word yichud with Hashem.
The word, that's the word for the highest level.
Are you serious?
That's the level. That's what it's called. The highest level of the soul is called yichud. That's exactly right.
How do you say it in English?
Unity.
Oh my God. It just came to me now. I'm like, I just see yichud because it's just one clarity. Wow.
Yes, it's amazing. That's
wow.
amazing.
Wow.
You'll see what each of the Hebrew words is connects to. I don't know. I hadn't seen it written, but when I was studying about the 5 levels of pleasure, and then I was studying about the 5 levels of the soul, I saw, oh my gosh, these correspond amazingly. This is what I got to share.
Can I just end with something very off topic, but very profound, I think, to this experience? How we can elevate. I always say that when you're one with your spouse, when you're having that yichud, that connection, it's not a sexual orgasm. It's a spiritual connection that no physical orgasm can get to there. And I feel when I feel and find God, it's in those places of oneness in a spiritual connection.
Yes.
We can get through physical. And that's what you were
Yes.
saying before.
It's one of the things listed that Rabbi Weinberg lists. Intimacy with your partner is on the level of nefesh. It uplifts your body and your soul so that you are connecting. Exactly. And
it's called in Hebrew yichud.
That's right. That's right.
You become one. I often say when you feel that spiritual soul connection, you can't explain it in words. You just can't bring it down to words. And it's something that is so spiritual and so high. And you're not there all the time, as you said, but you remember it and you try to go back and you bring from those experiences down to where you are now and you go up and down and shift.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Bracha, what? Oh my goodness. This is like amazing. Thank you so much for helping us find joy, understanding spirituality and what is a void? What does a void come from? And it's so important to understand why addictions happen, what is absence and what is missing inside us, and to start asking the questions. You know that you can only have a good answer when you have a good question, right?
Yes, you are a real gift. I am so grateful for this opportunity and for how you resonate so deeply. It's such a joy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I always ask my guests to leave us with one insight at the end, because this podcast is to give hope to those that are really trying to find hope and to live another day or to get through life. What does hope mean to you?
Hope is your soul. Hope is the part of your soul. It's that spark that nobody could cover up completely. It's still in there. It's resilient. It's the resilience. It's how do people overcome the traumas from childhood, the abuse? People have suffered terribly. That is the hope. Everybody has a part of their soul, and this is all in the ancient mystical writings, that nobody can diminish. Nobody could put out that light. It's an eternal light inside of every person. That's the hope. That is it. And it's still there no matter what. So the whole thing is to nourish your soul and remove the garbage, and your soul is still shining there so that you'll be able to feel it and see it and experience it. Yeah.
Beautiful. So hope is inside of everyone, even if we don't know. It's like a magnetic field there. And
Yes.
sometimes it's
Energy.
stronger, sometimes it's weaker, but it's a unique one inside of each one.
I think it's always strong, but you can't tell that
Feel it.
because it's covered up so much. It's always so strong. It's the part of you that's a part of God. It is infinite. It's this infinite part of you. It's still there. It's as pure as it ever was. They could not put dirt on this part. They couldn't dump it. It's still in there.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. So tell me, where can someone find your book, find you, hear more about you?
All my books are on my Amazon author page. So if you just look up Bracha Goetz Amazon, you'll find everything. They're in bookstores and libraries and everything, but all in one place. I think right now there's 39. So you'll see the books.
So what's your website? brachagoetz.com?
Right now it's just an Amazon. I have an Amazon author page with all my books in one spot.
And are you on Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah, I'm on all those places too.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes.
Wonderful.
Bracha, thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us your wisdom. Thank you for inspiring others to find their soul connection, their meaning, their spirituality, to search for joy and know that joy is out there. And once you tap into it, I call it the addiction to joy because it's a constant addiction. You just want more of it and you go for it.
That's beautiful. That kind of addiction doesn't make your life unmanageable at all.
Because you keep on coming from a source of understanding or spirituality. Yes. It's coming not from a place of lack of, it's coming from a place of giving.
Yes. And and I want to say that it's not my wisdom I'm sharing. This is the Almighty's wisdom. This is the wisdom with which we were created, how we were created. I'm just enjoying sharing it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Guys, go read this book. If you know someone that needs to hear this or someone that's struggling with addictions, gift them this book. You might save a life. Bye till next time. Thank you for listening till the end. We highly appreciate all of our listeners. In Mental Health Together is Better, you being here means a tremendous amount to us. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like some extra boost of information and inspiration that is not on the podcast, you can go to our website, hopetorecharge.com. There's some premium content that for the cost of a cup of coffee, you can download some amazing information that will help you, a tool that will guide you through life. So don't skip a beat. Don't hesitate. Go to hopetorecharge.com and see what other offerings we have there for your mental health well-being. Thank you for joining us. And remember, if you enjoyed this and you want to say thank you, the best way of gratitude will be by you leaving a review or a comment or sharing this with a loved one. There is no greater form of gratitude for us. Thank you. Bye till next time.